Hi everybody, I am K.A. Tucker, or Kathleen, you can call me that, that's my name. Welcome to the Asylum tour. This is the third time that I am videotaping this vlog. It's my first one. It's been a bit of a disaster and I was ready to cry, but now it's working, so yay, so excited, a little bit hungover, but very excited. So thank you to Mindy from Magical Urban Fantasy Reads for hosting me today on day one of the Asylum tour. She sent me a bunch of questions, so I'm going to go ahead and give you a bit of a book description first, and then I'll answer the questions, as many as I can. There were a lot of them, and I might have to pare them back a bit, otherwise you'll be here forever watching me. And then I'll read a little bit of an excerpt from Asylum. Not a spoilery one, but I'll read one. So there are two books in the Causal Enchantment series right now. There will be four, but there are two for now. The first one launched in May of last year, of 2011, so I can say that last year now. This is the cover, Anathema. This is the back cover. It's very cool. I love the demon and the white eyes. This book is about a young woman who just turned 18 and has had a very tough life. She's very lonely. She's lost her family. She has no friends. And she's pretty desperate to find a companion, some sort of companionship. And so when an opportunity presents itself to her in the form of a job, going to New York, serving this exotic woman as her assistant, she takes it, clearly. She does question it. She wonders if she's crazy, but she's that desperate. And she's naive, but she's that desperate. So from there, it seems like a paradise trip at the beginning. And she is just pulled into this world, this amazing world. And slowly things start to reveal themselves. The people that she's with they seem to be hiding something. She's having these really vivid dreams that seem almost too real to be dreams. And then eventually she wakes up with bite marks on her neck, and that's when she thinks, okay, you know what, something's wrong. Of course she questions herself first, but that's just the type of character Evangeline is. So from there it turns into this kind of whirlwind of discovery, of she's slowly discovering all kinds of new things, and at the same time as falling in love with Caden and trying to solve her problem. And I don't want to tell you any more than that, because this book is all about the unknown, I would say. You need to read it if you haven't. And yeah, it ends with a pretty serious cliffhanger, I'll admit, but it was the perfect setup going into the second one, and I couldn't have ended it anywhere else as far as I was concerned. So we can actually talk about Asylum next, because that's the tour that we're on, and this is the new book. It's launched right now, it's released right now, and yeah, this was a ton of fun to write. This was, I wrote it in two point of view, so Sophie and Evangeline versus the first one being Evangeline. What's cool about that is that Sophie she's the mastermind of everything. She knows all, and so it was nice to be able to tell the story through the eyes of somebody who wasn't clueless and wasn't naive, and who has orchestrated everything, frankly. So that was really fun. It's within one world. It's within Earth, as opposed to the first one, Anathema, but it's set in two different settings. One being the asylum that Evangeline is in the mountains, where she has no idea where she is, with the Ferrero kids who she's getting to know, and Max, her guard dog, and Leo, and a bunch of the staff, the human staff, to protect them. And so that's the one side, and then the second side would be the asylum in Manhattan, where there's a pile of vampires basically locked up in Vigo and Mortimer's palace by Sophie in order to protect the outside world. So a lot of tension there, a lot of questions, a lot of power struggle, and that was a ton of fun to write. So that's the book description. That's all I'm going to tell you. You need to read it to see more, because I don't want to spoil it. But it was a ton of fun to write. So I'm hoping you guys read or love to read it as much as I love to write it. So the idea for Causal Enchantment came about with one simple question, which was what would happen to a world where all humans were killed by vampires. So that's what started it, and from there it basically just took off with a lot of plotting and planning and changing. Um, but I knew I wanted to have a love story. I knew I wanted it to be a mix of different genres. Um, I knew I wanted it to be a life or death situation, so I wanted it to be have a big scope to it as opposed to just love, and losing your love. I wanted to have more than that. So from there, it's kind of just evolved. There's no magical formula. It was just magical in how it came to me, I would say. So the first book, Anathema, took me about, I would say, a year and a half of not knowing what I was doing, basically. After I wrote the first draft, I knew there was something there, but I needed to learn more. And so I took Holly Lyle's online course for how to revise your manuscript. Highly recommend it for anyone out there who loves to write, who wants to learn how to or has a story, wants to make it more robust and bring it to life. Any even published authors out there, I highly recommend her course. That one specifically, I haven't done the other ones yet, but it was fabulous. So that first one taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about how I needed to write a book. So everyone's got their different style, different format, different formula, and for me, that really taught me what I needed to do for the second one. And so when I wrote Asylum, that took me about 6 months, a lot faster. And it was a lot easier in that sense of knowing how to write a book. I'm expecting the third book will probably take about 6 months as well. I'm hoping it doesn't take longer than that. I would love to be able to be one of those people that says they put out a book and after 2 to 3 months of writing, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but I would love it because that means I'd be writing all day, every day, and that would be great. So the first book I ever wrote was when I was 6 years old, and I was in school in grade one, and I guess there was a program with the library in our school where you could publish a book. You would go with the librarian and you would write your story, and they would bind it with cardboard and wallpaper, and I have no idea what else was there. And you draw your pictures with your crayons or your pencil crayons, and you write your story. So I did a couple of those, and I loved writing stories when I was young. So then there was this giant lapse of, I don't know, 25 years before I started writing again, for fun, I mean. And I'm so glad that I did. But yeah, I wish I had caught on sooner that this was my passion, because I think I could have probably put out some more books. But I found the passion now. Well, thank you, Mindy, for thinking that Anathema and Asylum stand out in the world of vampire books. That's pretty cool. I would say what probably does make them stand out is a couple things. One is they're not set in high school, they're set outside of high school, which takes away a bit of that juvenile aspect to it that when you think of YA and you think of high school and drama in high school, it kind of removes that. I would say, and by the way, I love all of that, so don't get me wrong, but this is just different. And it has a very big life or death situation to it, or scenario to it. In Anathema, it's very much about Evangeline's life or death, but as you read Asylum, you'll learn that it's much bigger than just Evangeline's world. It's much bigger than that, and I won't tell you more. But I would also say, what else is different? My style's probably different. I'm not an overly flowery writer by any means. I would say it's pretty fast paced, and it's a quick read. Both of them are quick reads and high action. Yeah, so I think all of those combined together probably make this a bit different. As well, it's something that, I mean, probably because it's set outside of high school, it's very easy for people who are older than, you know, the YA 13 to 17 age bracket, technical age bracket, for them to read and enjoy. I've had people from every age group, from, you know, 13 to in their 60s, telling me that they really enjoy the story. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I think that's why, maybe. I can't believe you're gonna make me pick. I can't pick. I loved writing all of them, but if I had to, I would say, and I can't pick one, I would pick three. I would pick Max. He was awesome. He was the perfect combination of smart ass, sarcastic, and protector. I think it's also really cool, his character. Everyone seems to really like Max. Everyone wants to go get a Max, which is cool. But I think that for him, because there's no question, there's no doubt, there isn't that piece of, oh, are they or aren't they going to get together at some point in this book? You know they're not going to. I hope you do. So I think that adds a little bit of a comfort zone almost, is that you know they're friends and you know there's no underlying conflict there. I would say Sophie was awesome to write as well. I loved being in her head for Asylum. She knows everything, right? And it was great for me to be able to write from her viewpoint and tell the readers everything that was happening. So that was cool. And she's just the perfect mix of maternal instincts over Evangeline, and then total badass, right? The third one was, I think the biggest surprise to me was Mage. So coming out of Anathema, she was positioned in a certain light, very evil vampiress. And as you read Asylum, you'll get a lot of her backstory, and you'll learn what her true intentions are and about her. And she's very different, I would say, from what you probably expect. And I think I really enjoyed writing her, and I'm going to really enjoy writing her in the third book. So my writing ritual is basically when I'm writing, because I work all day, I have a pretty demanding job during the day, and I've got two little kids, and luckily we have a nanny for the girls who, she's awesome and does a lot of the cooking and cleaning as well during the day. So when we put the kids down, that's my time at that point. And so every single night I get my laptop open and I start writing for, whether it's half an hour or 15 minutes or 2 hours, whatever I can manage every night, 7 days a week. I don't watch a lot of TV. My PVR gets full of shows that I follow but don't have time to watch. So that's my ritual. That's what I'm doing. And I haven't written anything really other than preparing for the blog tour since October. And once the blog tour is through, I will begin writing on the third book. I've plotted it already, but I haven't started writing it yet. So, fictional boyfriends. I am Team Edward all the way. I love the Twilight series. I loved it. I carved through, I think, the entire series in 4 days, probably, or 5 days. And I'm a bit of an obsessive reader. And so yeah, definitely Team Edward, and I would say Team Ash. So I read the Iron Fae series 2 months ago, I think. Carved through that as well in a couple days, and I thought that was fabulous. So I would say those are probably the two that you're reading, and I think they're pretty incredible. So I mean, it definitely helps that Robert Pattinson is in the Twilight movie. That definitely helps with the Edward character. That is such a tough question. Um, okay, well, I can tell you my number one all-time favorite. That's easy. It's the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R. Martin, and I read that probably about, it was pre-kids, so because they're ginormous books, you could probably kill somebody with them if you hit them in the head hard enough with it. Um, I think that was probably 6 years ago or 7 years ago I read those, and the newest one just came out, and I'm dying to read it, but frankly I have to reread the other ones first, I think. So that's my all-time favorite. I would say Pillars of the Earth, also fabulous. Ken Follett wrote that. Fabulous book. I remember when my husband told me about it, and he said it was about cathedrals and building cathedrals. I thought, oh, it sounds lame, but no, it is such a good book. The Hunger Games I just recently read, so that's 3 books there, but fabulous, unbelievable, a little disturbing, but it was such a unique take with the dystopian genre that I loved it. There's a lot of books I want to read that they're adding on to growing my to be read list, but right now, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time. I just try and give myself a break from writing and jump into a book or two, but I can't read and write at the same time, so I'll probably try and squeeze in another couple of books before I start writing the 3rd book of the Causal Enchantment series, so we'll have to see. It will probably be Divergent, because I've just heard amazing things about that, and so I want to read that. So my head has been pretty much into writing Causal Enchantment, the series, since I began. I haven't thought much about writing other books and other series. I will, but I just haven't thought about them. There's so many plot twists and turns in Causal Enchantment that it takes a lot of energy and thought to make sure that all the pieces line up together. So I've had little inklings of ideas of other books, but I've jotted them down, but I haven't put any brain power towards them yet. I think actually perhaps when I finish this series there's a potential to write a prequel, do a book on Sophie and Veronique and Vigo and Mortimer and and Nathan and that whole situation. I think that would be awesome. It'd be very cool too, because it would be set in the late 1800s in Paris, right? So I think that'd be really cool. Be different, but at the same time build on the story. This is the last question I'm going to answer, actually, because we're at 18 minutes already before I answer this, so I think this has probably gone on for a while, and I've been jabbering a lot. So what I do for writer's block is, I just start asking myself a lot of questions, all kinds of questions. That's how I develop my plot anyway. If I get stuck somewhere, though, I just start asking a lot of thought-provoking questions. I also sometimes just jump into another scene. A lot of the time I just need to get out of that scene and get into another. Sometimes I might just, if it's really bad, I'll stop altogether and read a book. Just get my head out of there for a minute. I haven't suffered from writer's block too much yet. I've been lucky that way. So yeah, but that's what I do. And there's few days when I don't seem to be getting anywhere. So this is one of my favorite scenes, I would say, in Asylum. Well, no, not my favorite. I love all of them, but this is one of the cool scenes with Sophie. It's from Sophie's point of view, and it's her going out to get more blood for the Riteus vampires. 2 black Dodge extended cab pickup trucks pulled in front of me, blocking my path. I slammed on the brakes as 4 burly men hopped out of each, a mixture of fear and determination in their eyes as they peered up at me. My attention flew down to their hands. There it was, the sentinel tattoo. That meant they knew this red-headed, green-eyed woman was no ordinary woman. This was no accidental encounter. Rage flared within me. They had gotten to Reggie, used him for an ambush. But how had they broken my compulsion? Oh, I murmured, the puzzle pieces fitting together into a hideous picture. There was only one way to break a vampire's compulsion: witch magic. That meant either Mage's prophecy was coming true, and the Sentinel was allied with the witches, or Ursula was back in action as a thorn in my side. I hoped for the latter at this point, but either way, I didn't have time for this. I briefly considered ramming the trucks, but decided against it. The damage would stall the delivery truck. Plus, the noise would most definitely attract the attention of curious passerby. I couldn't cause a scene in broad daylight in front of a blood bank. I sighed heavily and rolled down the window. A gust of frigid November air struck me. "Hello, gentlemen," I called cheerily. The one closest to my door, a heavy-set, brown-haired man of 6 feet, edged forward. He wasn't getting too close, though. Smart. "You don't look like the typical truck driver," he answered with a nonchalant grin, trying to play up on his ignorance of my identity. He was a decoy, of course, meant to distract me from the 2 men to the right, who were busy readying the flamethrower drawn from a compartment in the back of one truck. The Sentinel's weapon of choice against us. It was stupid, really, given the speed and power of a vampire, yet they still did manage to catch us unawares some time. But they hadn't been dealing with the likes of me. I couldn't let this go any further, knowing they'd torched the truck, destroying the blood supply. I gave him my sweetest smile, all while plucking helixes of magic from my body, arming myself. I'd paralyze them. Simple. "Oh, but I'm not. You know that, don't you?" The grin slid off his face as his eyes darted to the others. He gave the slightest nod. I laughed aloud. "Seriously? Haven't you guys realized who you're up against?" With that, I sent a bolt of magic out to seize the flamethrower clean from the man's grip, letting it fly back and smash through the passenger side window to rest on the seat next to me. Glass rained down everywhere, but I barely noticed. "I've been looking for one of those," I said conversationally. And I have to stop there, or I'll spoil the rest of it for you, because other stuff happens. So thank you so much, if you're still watching, for hanging out with me here today on Magical Urban Fantasy Reads. I hope you enjoy the tour. There's going to be many different things, a lot of fun posts. There'll be a couple short stories that I've written from Caden's point of view, some backstory from Emily, as well as Caden, that were a lot of fun to write. There'll be movie picks, character picks, because that's always fun. I would love to have my book made into a movie. I think it would make a fabulous movie, of course. And, a lot of other things. So, and interviews and questions, etc. So, and of course, giveaways. There'll be print book giveaways, ebook giveaways, bookmark giveaways. So, definitely follow along. Hope you enjoy. Hope you love the book. And take care.